Esteemed panelists to kindly come on the stage, please. Mr. Jagdish Patankar, Mr. Dharampal Singh Malhotra, Mr. Ubaid Ahmed, Mr. Rohit Chandra, and Ms. Uma Menon. Kindly join us on stage, please. The growth path of any industry or an entrepreneurial venture starts in a situation when there are no rules or no standards. People who take the early initiatives try to set up the rules and standards, and soon we see a large ecosystem into place. When there is an ecosystem into place, it's very vital for us to lay down the standards and then focus on the skilling part so that the industry can grow at a much faster pace. This session on skilling and upskilling will give you an update on how IIA is trying to address the demands of the industry and making an integrated Indian exhibition ecosystem, keeping the prime thought that skilling is the driver of growth in future. I would pass on the baton to Mr. Jagdish Patankar, who will take this session further. Over to you, sir.
To see on the day 2 at the beginning of the session, reasonably good number of friends present here, particularly after attending the morning football match. I was told, 4 teams competed like it was a World Cup semi-finals and finals going on over there. So, wonderful to see in remembrance of Bala, everyone coming together and starting the day with a football match. So, I think on this day 2, the first session is a very, very important session. As we all heard our President Sonia ji in her inaugural address, highlighting and giving emphasis on skilling. In fact, after she took over as a President, one of the first things that she announced was that we need to focus on skilling and upskilling, and the task force was constituted for the same purpose. And I am not at all surprised by that. Many years back, this was about 3 decades back, I remember when I was in Maharashtra, I went to meet Mr. Gadkari ji. He was the Minister of PWD. And he was a young minister then. Nobody knew the kind of personality he is today. And I saw behind him there was a board which read American roads are, we all know that famous quote, right? American roads are good. And so the quote goes like this, that the America is rich not because American roads are good, and it is the other way around, or something like that. So what it essentially meant was that America became rich because the roads are good. It's not that because the country is rich, it is investing into roads. Same way, when I look at some of the leading countries in the world, which are, at the top end of particularly our industry, take for instance Germany, and when you compare and start thinking as to what is it that makes them leader in this sector, it is not because that, Germany is known for German engineering. Everybody talks about German engineering. But I think behind German engineering, there is a whole lot of effort over the decades has gone into skilling and upskilling the workforce. And that is the real secret of success. Today, if you look at China, which is another classic example, more than 20 million workforce is a top-end skilled workforce. And by 2028, to keep the leadership at that level, they are going to train another 10 million workforce only in the high-skilled area. While in India at present, unfortunately, the gap is far too wide. We have, if you just look at the numbers in perspective, we have something like 50 crore workforce, and out of that 50 crore workforce, just about 11 or 12% has got vocational training. And you can correct me, Uma, because you are expert in this domain. But just about 12% is vocational training, trained, or some kind of a formal training they have received. So, what we have to understand is that the first and foremost, as we start talking of, one of the pitching that our association is doing with the government and with the ministry is that if government has this vision of $5 trillion economy, by 2030, yesterday, I think Ambu or someone talked about it's becoming a $10 trillion economy. We are living in the daydream. If we do not focus on exhibition industry playing a significant role, and for that to happen, we have to create huge supply of a skilled workforce. And that is why IEI is giving top prominence to this particular activity. And with that thought in mind, the first action that our president took was to formulate a task force under the leadership of Dharampalji. So I would just request my colleagues over there to put up the slide of the task force members. There are 3 quick slides, and it will be good to know that who are the members of the task force. So my friends on audiovisual control, can you please put the slides up? Then Mr. Binu, founder director of Miraform, is here on the stage with us, director of Rudra Communications. Mr. Sanjay Wadhwa, vice president of Swift Corporation. Mr. Dayakar Reddy, president of IPMA. Satyendra Behra of Nuremberg Messe. Max Fernandez of Informa. Manoj Jaisinghani of Braid Events. Mr. Anamita Mukherjee of DB Shankar. Then Sudhir Dhawan of Ari Rogers. Mr. Abdul Khan of India Expo Mart, and Mr. Bilal Khan of ABEC Exhibitions. Now, wonderful thing about this task force is that, we actually all of us came together without hesitation, and we met, and we discussed, and we deliberated. And in the last just 4 months after the task force was formed, we did quite a lot. And it would be interesting to know as to what kind of efforts we have taken so far. Where are we at this present, and how do we see the roadmap evolving in the next few months, so that this vision of creating the skilled workforce will be realized through a very sustained and formal mechanism that we are looking forward to. So at this stage, without wasting any more time, I will request the chairman of task force, Dharampalji, to share his thoughts, and maybe you can share about what all actions we took last few months.
Thank you, Jagdish ji. First of all, I'd like to thank the entire EC and our President Sonia ji for taking this ahead. Although we've been talking about scaling, upskilling, and increasing the efficiency of the team members of the service providers, whether it's the logistics, whether it's the stand contractors, we have got a huge list ahead of that. We have had our first physical meeting of the task force on September 7th at Sonia ji's place, and she was graceful enough to host all of us on that. I'm very happy for most of the task force members who attended there. We had Mr. Basab Banerjee, who is an expert in skill development, and he had shared his experiences and the resources, and he was more than happy to initiate by mapping and adopting the existence of qualification packs offered by various skill sectors. Apart from that, he has also advised us that we recognize that RPL, which is recognition of prior learning, that we recognize our skill force and see where do we stand today and what kind of skilling, where do we need to emphasize more on that. There were a couple of key factors where we had jotted down on that day. Few of them were like health and safety, implementation of SOPs, understanding the pain points that our organizers have. The lack of basic education was something that we had stressed on, as these are the blue collar workers that we have, and the basic education, what we need, if we can train them to the basics that we need, and we can upskill them. The commitment and support needed from the organizers and the associations was shared by Diwakar ji, and he was also emphasized that the venues, organizers and the service providers come ahead and understand and make their own teams understand the emphasis of skilling. To define the way forward, we have had another 4 rounds of discussion and e-interactions, which was an open house. Most of our members, we briefly divided them into the organizers, the venues, stand contractors, and the freight forwarders. We had a very good discussions with all 4 teams, all on separate days, taking all inputs and understanding what insights and where do we need or where do we have the emphasis of skilling is needed. Binuji was very supportive as although he's on our skilling task force as well, and he's shared a couple of points over there and we've taken most of them into consideration. Again, few points which were added on in these meetings were the emphasis on the mechanical and civil component. The reading and understanding of layouts and drawings was one of the factors which was also there. Although we have teams who make the layouts, but the teams who have to understand and execute was a couple of challenges that a lot of organizers were facing. Again, the designing and technology, like yesterday we were talking about, Suraj was mentioning digital. Yeah, yes, moving her to the digital world, the designing and technology will be taking the next level in the coming years. Lighting and audiovisual, a couple of other key areas where we need to emphasize a little more on. Members had also suggested that we bridge the gaps between the SOPs and skilling. Although we have a set of SOPs for all the venues, for the organizers, for the service providers, but there's a small gap which has to be bridged. Satyenji was very supportive in terms of mentioning this thing that there's a gap between the SOP and skilling, that we need to bridge that gap and we have to find a way ahead to take this. We have with us Mr. Rohit Chandra to formulate and support us in this initiative. I would like Jagdish ji to take things up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharampal ji. I think you captured everything that happened over the last 4 or 5 months so well. So as you can realize, a lot of effort has gone in so far. That we could do those 4 meetings. I think the first and foremost, I would really appreciate all the task force members. They physically came. That was the first physical meeting in Delhi. Almost 4 or 5 years of meeting, very animated discussions, and we all enjoyed that. And almost everybody was there for the meeting. And I think that was a good omen. It started on a very, very strong positive. And that led to these interactions with 4 subgroups that we had. One thing, because as I was participating in that, even I was learning quite a lot. One thing which struck me was that we talk about these 4 or 5 major segments. We talk about venues, we talk about, of course, at the central pillar is exhibition organizers, right? They are the Sutradhars, as we call them. And then the stand designers, which is a very large community. And then a lot of service providers. And then there are n number of services. But in India, probably there is only one organization that at least I know of, which has been conducting training programs and maybe creating skilling programs and all that, and that is our own Bangalore International Exhibition Center under IMTM. I'm sure there must be others, but since I come from Bangalore and have been engaging with BIC for last 15 odd years, I know how things have evolved and the kind of efforts that are. And today we have with us Mr. Ubaid Ahmed, Senior Director of Bangalore International Exhibition Center. So Ubaid, if you can share your insights about how you have been doing this, how that thought came, what is the importance that you've seen, transformation that's seen?
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost thing, welcome to BIC, and I hope that we have been a good host to all you. Thanks. See, the journey for BIC and IMTM is very, very old in fact. IMTM is celebrating 75th year of its inception. We got this association formed in 1946, that is before independence. And we have been doing IMTEX since 1969. So, the journey is quite long, and at every step, when we started in the Bombay with Vikhroli and then moved to Pragati Maidan, and then we decided that we should have our own exhibition center, because at that time a lot of problems are being faced by the industry as a whole in terms of the not proper venues are there, the load bearing capacity, the connectivity and everything. So we built our own exhibition center in 2007 and did our first IMTEX. At that time, Mr. Ravinder Sethi can vouch basically. that once IMTEX got over, he and Mr. Mukherjee, they talk a lot on about how we can have these forklifts which can run on CNGs and gases and all those things were. So the journey is pretty long. From 2007 onwards, we have been into this particular thing. And we had a very lean team. We work mostly on our service providers. We are partners to them basically. We feel that without them, we are nothing. So right from F&B services to housekeeping to security to small contractors, everybody, we get involved with them. We try to educate them. We try to improve their skillings in terms of continual improvements that we do basically on a continuous basis. After every event, whether it is our own event or other the partner event, we do a PDCA. For every process, for every vendor, we do a PDCA and we try to come up with improvement points. That is one thing we do on a regular basis. Not only that, our in-house team, we also have external consultants. We train all our service providers. And like ISO, we have been working greatly with some of the service providers. In fact, all our service providers can vouch for that particular thing.
Good to know that. So, do you also do certification for that? Or it's just on the job training or?
No, certification as of now is not happening. But as per ISO guidelines, we have to engage with our service providers on day-to-day basis. We engage them, we upskill them. And for our own IMTEX, what we do is basically we have launched Eco Design Awards. In that, all our service providers play a very important role, especially small contractors. From where they procure the material, how are they using those materials, how eco and green friendly they are, how can we reduce the carbon footprint. All those things work together. And then an external jury is there. So the jury takes into account all the stalls that are there in our IMTEX. Then they have 3 winners. So that is a continuous process.
So if I want to do a wild guess or ask you to do not a wild guess for you, probably you would know, or ask anyone over here, for one IMTEX to be put together, right from pre-event, processes which are involved, to post-event successful closure, what could be the number of workforce engaged in putting together just one IMTEX? Putting together all services, all 4 services that we are doing. Can anyone?
Just to help you out, the last IMTEX what we did was 52,000 square meter net space. So, any guesses?
Pardon me? If somebody wants to put some multiplier to that, yeah, Binuji. Why times? Why times? What do you think? What is the?
Binuj is very near to the figure basically. We have some 7,800 to 7,900 people in the last IMTEX that were the service providers.
Look at this. So we are talking of one event in Bangalore, 7,800 workforce, and then you try and look at this number multiplied by the number of venues, big venues, medium-sized venues, small venues, different cities, and we are talking of, maybe 4 times the growth in this sector if we are going to support our $5 trillion economy. And maybe 8 times the growth of this sector if you are talking of $10 trillion economy. So that is the kind of enormity of the task. And I would put it this way, it is the opportunity that is available. So it's not going to be an easy task. We have to start from maybe whether we have SOPs in place, RPL to creating, job description, creating the framework, identifying different skill sets, looking at what is that is available within the market. So if it is the electrician, whether we can go to that skill council and just train the existing electricians, or whether we need to create completely different standards for, for our industry. So the enormity of the task is huge. And if you have to do that, we need to bring experts on board. And that is why, in fact, we had Mr. Basab, who gave us initial insights about what is in store, what is it that we need to do. And I'm very happy that today with us from global peers, we have Mr. Rohit Chandra, the co-founder of Global Peers, right? Here with us, expert from the field. And I would request Rohit ji to take us through your perspective of how should we go about doing this? What could be those action points? What is it that we need to do to, start moving in the right direction so that few months from now, we are able to actually roll out the programs. So, if you wish to make a presentation or...
Thank you IEA for giving me this opportunity. I think the first step which we've taken is the right step, which is to identify the need for skilling and upskilling. Because I come from a hospitality background, and hospitality, as you know, is an industry which is world class, operating in India. And that is primarily because of the human resources in hospitality are world class. The training standards, of course, hospitality is a very, very mature and established industry, established over the last couple of centuries, and they have their systems and processes well established. They have their training schools, they have their education system, but they have one of the best. After army, must say, hospitality industry has got one of the best training and skilling systems. We live in a very populous country, and every fifth person on this earth is an Indian. For a very long time, and this is not something which has happened. We worked on it for many, many decades to reach here. But the difference is that all along, up till about a couple of decades back, we used to treat our people, our population as a liability. We used to say that, with so much of population, what can we do? We have to feed them, we have to take care of them. We can never grow. But a remarkable change has happened over the last couple of decades. Those same people, that same population, we started looking at that population as a resource. We say human resource. And we started looking at how we can use this resource. We already see trained, educated Indians leading the best organizations in the world, working everywhere. So you have hospitality across the world, you have Indians working there, you have healthcare, you have Indian nurses, doctors working there, you have largest corporations in IT, you have Indians working there, you have NASA, you have Indians working there. So almost everywhere you have Indians, skilled, trained and educated Indians working across the world. And that is what our present government started saying, that with education, with skilling, with training, Indians can be empowered. Skills will empower India and Indians will power the world. That is what is happening. Indians are powering the world. Indians are providing that power, that manpower which is powering the world. All the largest industries, all large countries are now looking towards India for skilled and trained manpower. Before we come to what we should be doing with IEEA, I think I'll just try and introduce you to some of the terms which we use in this skills ecosystem. Can we have the next slide? So, we have the youngest population and skills to empower India and Indians to power the world. So, about 2 decades back, or about 1.5 decade back, we started the Skill India Mission. The Indian government started the Skill India Mission, realizing that this human resource needs to be trained. We have so many young people in this country that either we utilize them properly or they will be a headache for us tomorrow. So the Skill India Mission was formed, and not that skilling was not happening earlier. Right from our independence, we've had the National Council for Vocational Training, NCVT, AICTE, we had ITIs, and we had an excellent system. But over a period of time, this system had been stagnating, and until recently, the ITIs and all were almost like people had given up on them. There were no modern machines, the syllabus was outdated, the trainers were not trained or certified. So nobody really cared for the system which was existing. So around 15 years back, government came up with a new approach and came up with NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, and begged and wanted to bring our skill development system onto global standards. So the National Skill Development Corporation came into being, and with it came various sector skill councils. Every industry sector had a sector skill council which was to look after skill development and ensuring that there was enough manpower for the growth of that industry. Enough trained, skilled manpower for the growth of that industry, that because of lack of manpower, that industry should not suffer. That was the basic goal of every sector skill council and National Skill Development Corporation. Recently, NCVT has been also kind of renewed, rejuvenated, and it is coming in a new avatar. So there's a lot of emphasis on skill and skill development. And the best part is that we as an industry are coming forth and realizing that we need to skill our people, because being an HR professional, I've been working with many MSMEs, and I've seen that majority of the business owners, they like to hire absolute raw hands at low cost, thinking it's going to be saving them money. They don't want to invest in hiring skilled people. So I'm not saying about everyone, but at least I've seen in many manufacturing industries, not realizing that they are handing over equipment, machinery worth lakhs of rupees, crores of rupees into the hands of a novice who doesn't know how to operate it. And they don't see the damage or the loss in terms of muscle losses or lack of productivity or the wear and tear of the machine or wastage of material or due to low quality products, the perception in the market, in the customer's mind, they don't consider all those things. They just look at manpower cost. But recently, people have realized and understood that with a skilled and professional workforce, not only you have higher productivity, better quality, better quantity in terms of production. But you also get the respect from your customer who thinks that yes, this is a professional organization, professional people. It helps in brand or image building of the organization, and that is why that it is now the norm. People have started realizing, and we started talking in such forums about skill development and the need to have a skilled workforce. So now there is something called a National Register of Qualifications, which is a list of all the job roles which are existing in the country, and that is a result. This is not working. Yeah, so that is a result of some few actions. So that is a result of something called occupational mapping. Number 3. So there are some terms, some very common terms which we'll be using very often while talking about skill development. So I'll take 2 minutes just to explain each of those terms. Are you all aware of NSQF? No. So NSQF is National Skills Qualification Framework. Now the government has developed this National Skills Qualification Framework, which is basically a framework which organizes all the job roles, all the qualifications as per the level of knowledge, skills and aptitude required for performing that job. So basically, right from level 1, 2, 3, 4, just like in school we had classes, class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Similarly, we had this National Skills Qualification Framework which lists all the job roles as per the level of skill required for each job role.
Just add a little more pace because
Okay. All
we
right.
started a little late and this time.
Okay. So this is a NSQF, a sample NSQF, which you can possibly see that you have a plumber level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way, earlier we used to say that a plumber who's got 10 years experience is better than a plumber who's got 2 years experience. But now we have actual listed out skills, knowledge and attitude, aptitude by which they are graded, and tomorrow if you need people, you can say, well, I need 10 plumbers at level 3 and 10 plumbers at level 1 who are helpers. Accordingly, you can give them salaries, pay, you can fix their pay and you can budget for work and all. Similarly, National Occupational Standards and QPs, I think somebody already spoke about QPs. QPs, qualification packs, are basically a term given for job descriptions. They are very extended job descriptions in which everything about what a person is supposed to do, what all qualities, what all knowledge, skills he is supposed to possess to perform that job is given in that QP. This is a sample QP. This is what it looks like. It's a very extensive document and gives all the details in terms of what NSQF level, what minimum, maximum educational qualifications, age, experience, and what are the occupational standards which are part of that QP. So occupational standards are basically standards of work achievement for every element of a particular job. Every job is broken up into various elements and each element has an occupational standard. So occupational mapping helps in identifying. So what is occupational mapping? In every industry sector, there are lots of occupations. Like in our case, the exhibition industry has a lot of job roles, lot of occupations which are required. So which all job roles are required in our industry sector? Unless until we do a mapping of all those job roles, we will not be able to take care of proper skill development in that area. So what does a occupational mapping mean? You have an industry sector, you have subsectors, and then each subsector has occupations and each occupation has job roles. So let's say hospitality, you have tour operators and hotels. In hotels you have F&B service and food production, and in food production you have bakery, cookery and butchery. This is basically an example. And then this is the final occupational map that we make of an industry subsector. This is just to give you an idea of what we need to do in our area. I think we've already spoken about why skill upskill. So actually, we need not emphasize more on this aspect. People make all the difference. Despite the same physical product, despite the same processes, same infrastructure, the main differentiator is the human resource. And nowhere do we know better than our area in hospitality, everywhere. So now we come to what do we need to do in our industry, the exhibition industry. First of all, we need to do an occupational mapping to really identify all the job roles. Then we need to prepare brief job descriptions, or we need to do a functional analysis. What does each person do? What does each job role do? Then we need to map the job roles that we identify with the existing QPs which are already there. A good about 20 to 100 QPs already existing in our National Register of Qualifications. 2,200 which have already been identified, defined and approved. Then we have to do a region-wise demand mapping. Like we just now heard that in BIEC alone, there are close to 8,000 people required. So let's say in Bangalore, there are those 8,000 only by BIEC, and of course all the service providers, the logistics people, the service providers, all of them included. All included. Possibly it will run into many thousands. So we need to do that demand mapping, job role wise, geography wise. And then we need to start off a recognition of prior learning. To get early fast results, we need to first see all the people who are already there in the ecosystem. How can we do an assessment, see what are the skill gaps, train them for those skill gaps and then certify them. So that we have a ready-made, all the workforce which is already there, we are able to readily utilize them, we are able to upskill them and utilize them. Then whichever QPs, whichever job roles which we identified, if we don't have QPs already existing in the ecosystem, we need to develop QPs. And then for those QPs, we need to develop curriculum, content, pedagogy, and then we need to develop the skill development ecosystem for our industry sector. So, this is this is all going to be done with all of you over here because the knowledge you have been around the world, you have operated the best of the exhibitions for so many years. You have all the knowledge, you know exactly what is required. You have the knowledge, and I am going to provide the format to put all that knowledge into the format that we require, and we can develop and create that ecosystem. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chandra, for that comprehensive presentation on giving full perspective, skilling, and what we need to do as an industry. While we have, Mr. Rohit Chandra has been there, done that in our own industry. There is one person who is extremely passionate about skilling, who's been doing a lot of work in skilling area, who's been part of the task force. Mr. Menon, head of Rudra Communications, who doesn't know her. And I think you have already launched an app, right, on the skilling. And you are also working with the IESA in the skilling. So, UBA has been, engaging with the task force and giving a lot of inputs. And I would like to ask Ms. Uma, put all this discussion in perspective and share your conclusions. And then we will open it for Q&A if time permits. I know we are running out of time, but for you there is no time limit.
Okay, first thing you understand, the person who made this chair was very skilled. These are podium chairs which ensure that you don't sit for more than 5 minutes and don't waste anybody's time. So I'm comfortable. So we're all skilled. This industry is one of the fun industries of India because we actually put our best foot forward. Where Sonia keeps saying that we have to go global, we have to go international. My first tryst with exhibition industry, when I said, wow, ऐसा भी होता है, I was a real chit of a thing, precocious and a brat, everybody knows that. Auto Expo, people who are with Auto Expo would remember when they covered the lake and experts from Japan and Germany came with very fancy tools and what would take somebody like 20 days to make and all. And here were these fancy guys and good lookers. Huh? The funny thing was I was a young person, a very good looking butch guy. And they had these fancy tools and they were putting together these really good looking exhibitions together. And I said, wow, A, why don't we look so good? I mean, sorry, looks matter. And B, why don't we do it so quickly and so efficiently? And so I had a lot of friends, and Mr. Binu was also there. And Mr. Sethi has always been a guide and somebody who scolds me a lot, and I love him, so it's okay. And so he said that we do very good work. We are actually that industry where Chalta Hai, which is an Indian standard, is the least in our industry. Because we put our best foot forward. We actually showcase every smallest sector, from a nut bolt exhibition to an aerospace exhibition. We are the guys who actually showcase the best of that industry. The guy could be making shitty nut bolts, but we make it sound like, oh my god, he's sending the nut bolts to space. So actually we put our best foot forward. So we really don't have a room for being average. And today when we're looking at having international exhibitions, today when Sonia and the team is looking at, we have lovely venues. We've reached there. I mean, today we've got gorgeous venues. We've got amazing people. We've got Katankar sir and we've got all these amazing organizers who have the wherewithal and they're all rich so they can afford it. So now the point is that we have to just upscale ourselves. We have to upskill, and we have to really get smart at doing what we do best. Nobody can teach our task force. I mean, we all have that five particular handyman. We know we trust them with our lives. When Mr. Binu is sitting right here, when he's got a team happening in Gujarat, Sethi sir must be having 20 trucks carrying the most difficult load somewhere. He's got his trusted guys. They don't need to be scared. But maybe they do. Maybe they can get better. Maybe we can go back and see how we can get better. better to the point we become the best, where people come to India not just because wow, it's India, because wow, you come here and we are plug and play. You want to teach us international standards? Come on, you'll have to match up to our standards of work. Can you match up to our standards of work? So my first interest with skilling, my first thing with this thing is, we're not a chalta hai industry. We've never been. We are the poster boys for Indian economy. We want to be looked at as an industry. All industries are all about training the task force. We have Six Sigma, we have people wanting to turn around time. We have a lot of people who invest a lot in their shop floor training of their staff, without being scared that once they get trained, they'll run away and there'll be retrenchment. Yes, they will run away, but they'll run away within the industry. Suddenly, a plumber who's making stuff for us or a carpenter who's making stands for us is not going to work for IKEA. He will still work for another stand decorator only. So overall, the standard of the industry will come up. Once we get over our insecurity that if we train our staff, they're going to go away, the whole industry will come up. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we are all going to be those fancy guys. I looked at blurry-eyed and those, with those fancy tools, putting up shows where the world will look at us and say, wow, I want to take my show to India because India is the country that can deliver at all levels. And the day we are skilled, and it won't take time. It will not take time. It's not like a gradual, slow process. Once we are determined, Sonia is determined, everybody here is determined, she's got this India thing to it. We have the biggest benefit of the demographic dividend. As Sir said, youngest population. It's a hungry population. They need work. People don't have work. We're not only going to give them work, we're going to give them good work. So the world will come to us. And skilling will bring the world to us. That's all I have to say. Let's all have fun. Actually, I asked them, can I say at the end of my speech that the bar is open, but they didn't like the idea. So I think the tea is open, or maybe it is not open. But wake up, it's a nice morning and we're all having fun. And let's all get to it. And not be insecure that the skilled manforce will walk off. Even if he does, he'll just go to your competitor. And then you will create a more skilled workforce to compete with your competitor. So imagine we'll all be just lifting the entire industry up. It's just that.
Thank you. Thank you. 5 years from now, when we would have really scaled up and achieved something substantial, at that time you will make this announcement. Now the bar is open. To celebrate the success.
Yes.
Yeah. I would just like to check with you whether we have an opportunity for a question. No. So we are the only session, unfortunately, which will not take any question. One question.
I'm fortunate that ITPO had sent many of our officials in the year 2000 to Germany on the German scholarship, and I was one of the fortunate person to visit there. And we visited all the exhibitions. We stayed at Saarbrücken, Dortmund, Munich, Berlin, Cologne, and Sweden, and various places. And I also at Messe Cologne, I did my internship. I really appreciate how Jagdish Saab said about the roads. Effective road will lead to effective economic growth. Same way, for exhibition industry, this part, skilling and upskilling, is the comparison to the road in the growth of the country. Number two, Rohit Saab's presentation, I really loved it, but he left because of time. The last part, he talked about all the job description, job specification, right? Job analysis, manpower planning, and the last slide where you said the same organization, same structure, everything, but still people don't do well because that was you are talking about human skills. You are talking about attitudinal path, problem solving, risk management, conflict management, leadership, team building, and that is what I saw there. 12 months course, 8 months was taught on organizing exhibition, 4 months was taught on human skills. So 3 skills are there: technical skills, which we are talking about, human skills, and conceptual skills. Conceptual skills, people like the presidents are organizing it. We don't have much. Technical skills, what you all have been talking about, we have missed the human skills. For success of anybody's person, if you ask in his life, he may not have got a very big degree. But if he had human skills, resilience, hard work, sincerity, passion, interest,
all the electric buildings of all the cities in India still has been built by Biharis and plumbers from Orissa. None of them very, literally very skilled, but practically very skilled. So human skills must be and should be included as a part of this message. Anyway, you are picking up that, and because of time you left it. Anyway, that's important. That's what I wanted to say, that human skill aspect should be their part of this.
That I think I'd just like to reply over here that in the skilling ecosystem, this has been recognized, and most of the programs, especially one of the best programs in skill development being run by the Ministry of Rural Development called Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gramin Kaushalya Yojana. They have a very major part which is given to life skills.
Correct.
The component that you're talking about. And this is even part of the other government programs.
True, sir.
The life skills are a major part of every skilling
So
program.
that is why for exhibition industry also I thought this part should be included. Must there.
Thank you, Vivekanand ji.
Thank
We
you,
will
sir.
keep that in mind.
Thank you, sir.
Very important.
I think just like to add one more thing over here. That we should start now from the next 5 exhibitions. We have this having an exhibition, a large exhibition, a major event. You have so many people coming at one place. We should start this RPL right from the next
Talk
event.
about that. But before we conclude, we are really running out of time. But this session cannot be complete unless we get some insights from Binu.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Just a small comment. When it was asked how many people were employed for that particular index, society said 1,000. Society travels abroad most of the time, more than spending time here in India. And if it is abroad, he was correct. The figure would have been 1,500 or 2,000 people working, where we actually employed 7,800. This is because of the lack of skills, number one, and the lack of SOPs. Long time back, I had done a small study on my own. How much it cost per square meter of building something. And it is actually very long back. We were paying Germans in Deutsche Marks, and we thought it's quite a lot of money we are paying them per hour. But then I calculated how much we are spending for the same work being done in India. I had a surprise. We spend more money than Germans. Everybody gets 300 rupees, 500 rupees labor. There we are paying $16 or 20 marks per hour. But finally, we were employing so many people to achieve so less. And the actual output of Germans was much higher, or in the monetary gains, because they are skilled, was much higher in Germany compared to India. Rather than, this one study I had done. So we need skilling. We need more SOPs, because this time and the money is spent on doing something, not right the first time, labor work, then the supervisor going there, correcting it and doing it second and third time. It all can be saved by right skilling, and we are nowhere and long way before we go and sleep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So with this, we have concluded the very first session, though quite delayed, and I appreciate the patience, and I hand it over to Suraj.
Thank you. We'll have the felicitations of our esteemed panelists. May I request Mr. Gaurav Juneja to kindly come on stage, please. Mr. Rohit Chandra. Ms. Uma Menon, Mr. Ubaid Ahmed, Mr. Dharampal Malhotra, and Mr. Jagdish Patankar. So this has been truly a fantastic session. This is the month of December and all of you must be making business plans for next year. If you are reimagining future and you are fearful about it, skilling is the only instrument which can make you brave. Think about it.